Okay,
Stop it.
this is a special meeting of the City Council of the City of Holiday Island. It's April 1st, 2022 at 1 p.m. Let's start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Okay. Councilmember Dumas.
Absent.
Okay. Councilmember Elwood.
Here.
Councilmember Graves.
Here.
Councilmember Mills.
Here.
Councilmember Pittman.
Here.
4 members present, Mr. Mayor.
4 out of 5 is a quorum, so I declare a quorum. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the agenda as submitted.
Stan made a motion.
Second.
Jerry seconded it. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Any, we don't have any minutes to approve, ceremonials, recognitions, proclamations. Hearing none, we'll move on to reports. I have no reports. Moving on to business, we have no old business. Under new business, we have resolution 2022-005, approving the agreement of law enforcement services. That's not stated exactly correct. Resolution, and I apologize for that since I put the agenda together. Resolution 2022-5 is actually a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Carroll County and the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District for law enforcement services and to take all other measures necessary. So that's the specific resolution that we're taking up, not the actual sheriff's contract agreement. We had tabled this at the last meeting, I believe, but I didn't go back and expressly check the minutes, so rather than we do something in error, I will entertain a new motion to approve resolution number 2022-5.
So moved.
Linda made a motion to approve the resolution. Do I have a second? Okay, then I will, Wes, you want to read the resolution? Or I can.
Okay, no, I can't. I was just thinking here. Okay. Resolution 2022, and it should probably be 005.
Probably.
A resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Carroll County and the Holiday Island Suburban Improvement District, HICID, for law enforcement services and to take all other measures necessary. Whereas the City Council of the City of Holiday Island, Arkansas believes that it is in the best interest of the citizens of Holiday Island to enter into an agreement for law enforcement services in the form or in a form substantially similar to the attached agreement for law enforcement services agreement, and whereas pursuant to authority authorized in the Interlocal Cooperation Act, the parties to the agreement have set forth their respective duties, obligations, and responsibilities with respect to law enforcement services. Now therefore be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Holiday Island as follows. Section 1, that the agreement between the City of Holiday Island, Carroll County, and HICID is hereby ratified and approved as in form or substantially similar to the form as attached hereto as Exhibit A. Section 2, Mayor and City Recorder Treasurer are hereby authorized and directed to execute the agreement on behalf of the city of Holiday Island, Arkansas, or to approve and make necessary changes to the same, and to take any and all necessary action as may be required to fully and completely implement the provision of said agreement, passed and approved by the city council of the city of Holiday Island this first day of Arkansas, 2022.
First day of April.
What's that?
First day of April. You said first day of Arkansas.
Oh. First day of April. Yeah, 2022.
Already.
Okay. Linda pointed out one correction that needs to be made to section 2 in the resolution, where it says required to fully, completely implement, doesn't read correctly. It's redundant, so we're gonna scratch the word completely. So that will read required to fully implement the provisions of said agreement.
Which one are you taking out?
You need the fully,
You don't even need
Take-
that, to implement means you implement.
implement, I would
You
just
don't
Just
even
took
need,
out, we're just taking out the word completely.
probably take out the name, the word fully also.
you don't need it. I'm just speaking from the editor's point, but
It
it
doesn't make any difference, I just
So
say.
we- even fully is
Yeah,
unnecessary.
to implement.
Yeah.
Alright,
Anyway, more words are expensive.
You only got a certain amount in life.
I've used most.
alright,
So we're gonna
We
scratch
need to get a
that.
different order.
scratch fully and completely, so it will read, as may be required to implement the provisions of said agreement. That reads
Did
good.
you put in the other change that you have to add the word island after city of Holiday?
I'm already made that correction on the version that we're reading. Okay, and now, since, I'm gonna open the floor now for discussion. And, since the, agreement itself is an attachment to the resolution, our discussion can include the actual agreement, and I wanted to bring up one thing. If I can find it now. On the top of the first paragraph on page 3, where it defines how the county would reimburse the city and the district for the unused portion of the vehicles, plural, in the event that the contract is terminated. Westbrook pointed this out. Their logic was incorrect in how they did the formula. They based the formula on the way they had it written. We would get paid for the mileage that they used on the car, and then they would keep the car, as opposed to paying us for the portion that they didn't use.
Right.
And then they keep the car. So I changed that paragraph to read, the remaining value is to be determined by applying the percentage of the unused miles against the total replacement miles, $100,000 in parentheses, to the purchase price. For example, if a new vehicle,
100,000 miles.
100,000 miles, yeah.
Yeah, you said dollars.
Oh, miles, okay.
Yeah.
Right, between the two of us, we'll keep each other honest.
Yeah.
For example, if a new vehicle is purchased for $42,000 and this contract is terminated after putting 40,000 miles on the vehicle, the county will owe the city and HICID $25,200, which is 42,000 times 60,000 divided by 100,000.
So that 40,000 needs to read 60,000.
Right,
Oh, yeah, okay.
I didn't catch that, Wes.
yeah,
I didn't.
Wes done us good on that one,
Yeah.
if it ever does come to that point.
And are we ready to discuss?
Well, Linda had some things that some typos and
The amount was
$25,200. And I have a copy here, or 2 copies.
I think we need a different lawyer.
All right, Linda, you wanna go over the typos and,
Yeah, at the top of page one, since we said it's exhibit A in the resolution, I think you need to put an exhibit A at the top.
at the top of the agreement?
Maybe not the one that you get signed, but.
No, we wouldn't, you would
is
not want
attached.
that on the, not on the executed.
Not on the
Right.
executable one, right?
Right.
And then down in the first whereas paragraph, after annual code annotated 2520-101 at SIC, comma, followed by and, followed by the section notation,
That little squiggly
the
thing?
squiggly thing, and then the 1452-102. In the next whereas, that sentence should read toward the end, for the amenities that it maintains, not is.
I could read that 5 times and not see
Yeah,
it.
me too, and I have.
I've read it 3 times.
I read it as it's supposed to be instead of the way it
Most
is.
all of us do that.
I'm sitting there thinking, I just read this, how could I not see that? I don't see it.
I probably don't, yeah.
That's the way it works.
Bottom of page 2, in paragraph number 5, down at the last 2 sentences, it says the occurrence of the latest of the 3 following events. 1, scratch the either. That's totally redundant.
Or doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense, yeah.
Yeah.
Then further down on the next page in that same paragraph, this would be that last sentence that we were just discussing, where it says, oh, those are things I wrote in because you told them to. Okay, so nothing there. In paragraph,
Well, can we go back?
sure,
Because
go ahead.
of the 3 following events, 1, either 3 years from the execution,
Or
3 years from,
that's not right.
well, there ought to be a 2, and I was, if we're gonna,
There's no 2.
There's a,
1.
there's goes from 1 to 3.
There's 2 3s and not a 2.
Oh, there are 2 3s, see?
Oh,
Well,
except
you were right, Wes.
You want
I
the
didn't
2 and
catch
then,
that.
I didn't either.
The first 3 ought to be a 2, yeah.
Jerry did.
Good, Jerry.
I don't see more than one.
either 3
well,
years.
if you change that
You have
to
to
2,
go to the
then,
next page.
then you gotta put the 3 years in there too.
Yeah, well, it's or 2, parentheses, 3 years.
So this should be option 2.
Yeah.
Option 2 is 2 years.
I mean, you even need to number them, if you list them, put or
Probably not. Just either 3 years from the event or.
Should,
Yeah,
3 years from the
It would
county's
probably be
purchase
better
of a new
with bullet
vehicle.
points.
So you don't need numbers.
Points.
You don't need,
the
You
number.
don't
You
need
don't need
numbers
the
at
numbers.
all. Take the
the
1
number.
out.
Yeah,
Take
you
the
just
1,
make
take
it
the 2,
into
take the
list
3
of
out.
You don't have any 2s or 3s, just take the 1 out.
Yeah.
Take
Well,
the
you
number.
got a 3 down there later, so.
Yeah, take the 1 and the 3 out. That's Jerry's right. You don't need that stuff. 3 years from the execution agreement, 3 years from the purchase of a new vehicle, or upon assignment of the, You don't need any numbers in there except for the 3 years.
Right.
Or you could add to number 1 upon the
No, it's not
end
adding.
of 3 years.
We're just doing grammar now. We don't wanna talk about issues. I guess we're doing the grammatical things now.
They have an issue.
Pretty much.
Okay, all right.
I've got an issue.
Okay.
Okay, I got that.
On two, I would question, okay, it doesn't specify which vehicle.
But
I'm gonna have two vehicles, what if the county decides to buy another vehicle in a year? Or replace the county vehicle?
That's,
we're gonna have to pay for it.
that we're gonna have to pay for it.
Okay,
From
And
here on
that
out.
was my issue is, you know, do we know how many miles are on the vehicle they're using right now? Because
No,
if that bit, you know, if that thing's got 80,000 miles on it right now, or 90 could have, that means next year we're gonna buy them a new truck. And we're gonna have to have 42, the contract, instead of being 42,000, is gonna be 70,000 for each of us. Because we're gonna pay 28 or 26,000 for each for a new vehicle.
Following it.
That's what the contract, that's what that contract says.
I don't-
Follow that.
I don't follow his math, but going forward, the city and the district
Are paying for it.
replace all vehicles,
Every 3 years.
even if the one that Aaron's driving now has got 99,999 miles on it,
We gotta buy a new.
we gotta buy a new vehicle for Aaron when it hits 100,000 miles. So that's something we'll have to talk to the sheriff about.
I don't,
Who suggested that?
Well, I mean,
Did you or did the sheriff?
Sheriff,
the assumption is that for the price that we're paying for the service, they cannot provide the vehicles. They will contribute the very first one, but they won't contribute any vehicles after that.
Okay, so they
No.
suggested that.
The whole contract could have been written different, that they supply the cars, period, but then the annual fee would have had the cost of that baked into the fee.
But when we first started talking about this, there was some talk about, we were talking about that office rental of him, or the deputies going back to Berryville every day to do the reports. Is that still gonna be the case?
So we rented the space for them, so they're gonna be
Okay,
here.
but I might have dreamed this, but I thought somebody said that they'll wanna do that anyway, to go back, but I wouldn't think they would.
No,
Unless it's-
no, the vehicles stay here. And, you know, to me, it was worth $150 a month for the city to have a, patrol vehicle sitting
No, absolutely.
sitting in the parking lot there all the time, so that everybody knows. we
especially
have-
when we get 35-mile-an-hour speed limit.
So at least one vehicle will be there full time
Mhm.
when the other guy's patrolling, so that's right.
Anyway. I understand it.
Linda, did you have any more?
Yeah,
Let's
paragraph
let-
7, the, first HICID is not spelled correctly,
Too many
This
S's?
is, this is,
too many S's.
S's are free.
there's an extra I too, you gotta take IS out.
Well, the I, there are 2 I's in
There's two
HICID.
I's in I said there's just not two S's.
I see.
I think that was it, everything, Dan.
Okay.
Good.
Anything else?
so back,
Go ahead.
I just think we need to have an idea of when we're gonna have to replace that current vehicle, whether it's gonna be in the first year or second year. I would say it's probably one of the two, because they put a lot of miles on those vehicles.
Probably not as many as you
Huh?
think.
You know,
You should, I don't know whether it needs to be in the contract or not, but we should have a record of the current odometer reading on the day this goes into effect.
We can do that.
And so that we
I
can
think-
track the odometer.
We can note that.
I think we need to know so that we can plan, you know, when we're gonna have to buy the second vehicle.
Because you could at least say, well, when it hits 100, I know, you know,
He said it's
put it in the correct year's budget.
99.99.
I mean, I don't think I don't think we should have to buy 2 vehicles this year.
I hope they don't come this
Correct.
year.
Yeah, we'll make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay, that's my only problem with the whole contract. I read it twice, I didn't see any other problems.
I've got one question about the resolution, was just a minute late.
Okay.
When it says authorize the mayor to execute this or a similar agreement, so that means that whatever the final thing is, it won't come back before the council? Because that's
I think it says that it's leaving it up to my discretion as to whether or not whatever we end up with is minor, no changes, minor changes, or
The only,
substantial changes.
the only person that could make any changes to it would be the quorum court or the county judge.
Well, that's something that we all need to keep in mind.
And I mean, they,
We've only had 2 of the 3 lawyers involved look at
Well,
this.
see, that's my concern, because we're gonna take whatever that y'all end up negotiating back to every attorney involved, and, just raising that as a,
It hasn't been approved by the board of commissioners either.
have they even discussed it in a
they
public
didn't,
meeting?
they haven't.
See, that
I thought they
concerns
were
me.
gonna do it yesterday, but
I don't think they intend to bring it back to the VOC. If I were betting on it, I would bet that they don't take it back to them. I think we need to trust Dan at this point, that, if there's a significant change from what the county demands, that he'll bring it back. I think,
I was anticipating myself that Dan would bring it back if there was a significant change.
I can't see where the county could have any problem with this current contract. They signed the contract that the district had with them for the, and all we've added to it is, that we're buying the vehicles. Basic. And there's no, there's nothing but profit to them.
And then one other thing is down in the contract itself, and I may be misreading it, it talks about basically how the deputies are used or solely at the discretion of the sheriff's department. Does that mean that you as mayor or cannot say, we've got Ken Mills racing another Mustang down Holiday Island Drive? Can we pay attention to that, or enforce speed limits in some areas?
I think the point of that paragraph is to make it clear that the deputy reports to the sheriff and not to the city or to the district. And,
But that doesn't preclude you?
no, I mean, we can
request
ask them.
anything.
Okay.
In fact, the provision we put in here about the deputy enforcing or issuing citations to enforce city ordinances, that's gonna be totally at my request. So it's, unless we end up with a deputy that's just really hard to work with,
Okay.
I think.
And to that particular language, you make reference to the issue citations and enforce citations if we don't have a sworn code enforcer. If we ever determine if there's not a way to swear in a code enforcement? It's real hard to figure out, but the best as I can figure out is that to be a sworn code enforcement officer, you pretty much have to go through the same thing that you would go through to be a deputy. You might not have to go to the police academy, but you gotta,
I think the agreement we have here, where the deputy will do the issuance of the citation rather than the code enforcer, probably about as good as they're gonna get.
the way Eureka Springs gets around it is that Bobby Ray is a cop, he's a part-time city cop. And so he's a sworn officer.
The only other way I know we get around it is, you know, if we go the other way and get our own police department, then we would have somebody to do it.
Eureka Springs, Eureka Springs, Green Forest, their code enforcement officer is not a sworn officer either. If they have to issue a citation, the police chief does it, or one of the city police do it. So I don't think this is, the only thing unusual about this is that we're having the county do it, not the city police department.
And that was, you know, that's a new thing, but I don't think that's a stopper, because when I talked to the sheriff, he didn't think that was a problem.
It's allowable by law, so.
Another question, I would gather Eureka Springs might be having this problem right now without a prosecuting attorney to take care of their cases in district court. And we will be faced with the same problem the moment this goes into effect and deputies start issuing citations or anything to the city. So what is Eureka doing about it, and what are we planning to do about it?
We're gonna talk to Eureka Springs, because our plan was for Tim Weaver to be our prosecuting attorney. So, we'll have to see who they come up with and see if that person is also willing to prosecute our handful of cases a month.
I'm guessing until they replace him, they just don't
Yeah,
do a court proceeding on those, any citations or
I don't
any
think,
that were in the
You have
works
to have a-
already?
the only time you have to have a prosecuting attorney is if the people don't agree to the citation.
Right, so don't pay a fine.
Then it has to, Dan and I went to one of those circuit courts, and and you know, what did you say, 70% of the people agreed to
Yeah,
pay for it?
would
and-
plead
and
guilty and pay the fine. And some of them, you know, if their fine was like $2,500 because they did 17 things wrong at the same time, then they were almost advised to plead innocent and,
Go back.
and come back for trial,
Or they might
because
get lowered.
during the trial, the judge would have the discretion to lower the fines and penalties.
But so I'd say, 20 to 30% of the people that went there for the, you know, first hearing or whatever you wanna call it, you know, they agreed, and so the other was referred back to trial, so.
I asked Aaron one time how many, cases he actually, for Holiday Island, tickets he wrote in Holiday Island, how many times he has to go to court, and he said hardly ever. So that means that for the majority of what they do out here has been traffic fines, and people just pay the ticket, and
I can see that changing with code violations, though.
a little bit up front, yeah.
But again, the fines are not that large, so.
But in answer to your question, we definitely have to take the next step now and get district court set up. We have to have an agreement with Eureka Springs to share in the cost of operating district court, which we have a draft agreement that, from Town, that we can use as a model.
Are we gonna do that, or are we gonna get Justin to draft that, because that's the thing that
Justin
Butch,
gave me the one from Town to use as a,
I don't think that was ever given to Butch Berry, was it?
I believe so.
Uh,
Cause that's why Tim Weaver ended up calling us.
Okay, Butch gave it to Tim.
Yeah, Butch gave it to Tim, and Tim called us and said he'd be
Did he have
interested
any,
in doing
did
it.
he have any issues with the ordinance or
Well, it was just it was a,
interlocal agreement?
yeah, it was just, it wasn't a draft agreement, it was just the way a different one was done. so we could see what one would
Well,
look
we
like.
need, yeah, we need
It
to.
was
go
an
ahead.
example.
Is there a separate agreement with the district judge, Ramsey?
The agreement between us and the district court and Eureka Springs has to be approved by Judge Ramsey and
The
I think
county.
the county judge.
I think it was a county.
So
Yeah.
the agreement includes his services, right? The judge's services and payment for that.
All we're doing, the district court's there, all we're doing is sharing the cost of the operating the district court.
And it's prorated. Eureka Springs would hit the total button at the end of the year, what it costs them to operate district court. And then they'd look at how many cases we had, how many cases they had, cost would be prorated between the two.
So you don't pay monthly?
No, it's once a year.
Okay.
I think it's in February. And that's, the law stipulates that. That's not negotiable in the agreement. The law stipulates how that's done. Okay,
Okay, back, bottom of page 2, I don't know that I got totally what we agreed to on this replacement of the vehicle on those 3 items. What are we doing?
We just took the numbers out.
Section didn't have a number.
Yeah, just listing them.
Were we eliminating one or just, no?
no. It'll read, 3 following events, colon, 3 brackets, number 3, years from the execution of this agreement, semicolon, 3 years from the county's purchase of a new vehicle under this agreement, or upon an assigned vehicle's odometer showing 100,000 miles of use.
So we're just eliminating that last 3?
And the first one.
We took,
No?
no, we just took the numbers out.
The only numbers are in regards to the years.
Okay, okay. So they're okay,
Yeah, there's no sequencing.
okay.
Don't like it, but I don't.
I think it
there's
would
no-
help if
no way
you
around it.
bulleted each of those 3 items.
I can do that.
It would make it real.
I'll make all these corrections and email everybody a copy of it to look at one last time before I take it to Danny and Sheriff Ross.
Whatever makes you happy, yeah. I don't
All right,
care.
any other discussion on the resolution?
Motion.
Otherwise, we have a motion, I just call for a vote. Call for a roll call vote.
Is it long enough? I forgot.
Okay. Councilmember Elwood,
Aye.
Councilmember Graves,
Aye.
Councilmember Mills,
Aye.
Councilmember Pittman.
Aye.
Okay,
4 in favor.
4 in favor, and so
One
the
abstain.
resolution is approved. And I will keep you posted as to our progress in getting it executed.
Is
And
this-
since this is a special meeting and we cannot entertain any other business, any public comments from the public?
I would like to ask a question.
Just a minute, council member comments?
This just pop up. The ordinance establishing the police department, we did go ahead and pass that. right? That's the only question. And,
Any other, let's see, we need to have this ready to go, submit this to the county before the, court meeting, which is the 3rd Monday of the month. I'm going to, as soon as I get all these corrections made, I'm gonna run it by Danny. I've been keeping him posted on all of the corrections so far. I'm not gonna wait until the VOC meeting to get a copy of this in Sheriff Ross's hand,
Right.
so that he can start running it up the flagpole too.
I agree with that.
Are we gonna have a representative at the quorum court meeting then?
I can ask that
I think Dan would be,
That would
should
be
be
good.
there. I don't know
Need to be
if
there.
the rest rest of us go, it'd be a problem, you know, unless you could go, Wes could go, but
I think, you know, as long as it doesn't, well, I was gonna say, as long as it doesn't impact their budget, it may impact their budget a very slight amount. Because we're providing the car, but they're outfitting it. Now, wait a minute, we're paying the outfitting, that's in the price. Because the car was 36, and then the other rate was, to outfit the car.
Right.
So, this should be,
42,000.
this should be budget neutral to
Lee County.
to the county.
on that first one, are we, 42, are we paying all of it or half of it?
We're paying half.
That's what I thought, the district's paying half of it.
Yeah.
So we're only paying 21.
Yeah.
Good deal, Lucille.
All right, next regular meeting is at our regular meeting time, although I may call a special meeting, maybe next week to pass the solid waste ordinance. But I haven't even looked at making all the updates that we've come up with. So, when I get ready to do that, I don't necessarily wanna wait until the next regular meeting.
Are you going to talk to Butch Berry about going, you know, seeing whether he's seen enough, or does he need some additional information to, you know, start working on that interim agreement?
I need to dig it out again and see what the,
And, I don't know whether I can find it or not. I had it one time, I know. We need to update that and get it down to them, let them be looking at it, because we need to, you know, we need to be ready to do this if possible, you know, not first of May, 1st of June.
Collecting the signs, do we need a
Well,
motion to adjourn?
it's gonna take, even after the county signs this, it's gonna take them time to buy the car, find a candidate to hire, probably send that candidate to cop school
I know, but we still have one deputy
that could be writing tickets and stuff, yes.
So we need to be looking to try and get that circuit court thing, you know, in fact, by 1st of June or something on that time frame.
I made a note, I'll dig it out.
Anything I can do, can I help you? Again,
Oh, speaking of anything
I'll second it.
Ken wants to do, I know this isn't an agenda item, this is, mayor comments. I did ask Ken to be the one, to negotiate the, city contract with Carroll County Solid Waste, as opposed to me doing it. That eliminates any perception of conflict of interest, or possibly
collusion.
real subliminal conflict of interest.
Ken won't give in.
Say what?
I said, you won't give in.
Ken will bleed them dry, so.
I remember, like I said, when I was on the BOC, you know, they wanted exclusive rights to trash, you know, they wanted the BOC to come up with an exclusivity contract with them. And they wouldn't do it, but the representative that Jackson, what was his name? Jackson, was it? Phil Jackson sent his representative over, and I cajoled him into agreeing to start route service out here without exclusivity, and look where it's gone. It's gone from 0 to 900 and some customers, so it's,
60+%.
and I don't think Phil ever forgave him.
Before we-
These corrections,
before we
copies, I'll sign my.
end the meeting,
That's the copy, so you don't have to hang around.
Before we end the meeting, you know, you just mentioned something that made me think, you know, if they have to take some time, maybe a month or two, after we execute the agreement, bring on board a second deputy, we might need words in this paragraph 11, or paragraph 13 about how much we're paying that says, you know, that it would be so much per deputy in service rather than just 4,200.
I think it would be easier for us to just get an agreement that they won't bill us for the second deputy until they actually hire somebody.
They could, I mean, just, the billing would be dependent,
So that's another agreement, isn't it?
you could say $4,200 per month per deputy. I mean, you could do that, and then, if they never, because there's gonna be times, you know, back, my experience when we had 2 deputies when I was on the board, there were a lot of times when we only had 1. So you could change that to $4,200 per deputy.
It's 4,200 for 2 deputies.
I said $4,200 per deputy.
But you don't want to pay 4,200 per deputy.
Yes, you are, that's what you are paying.
No,
Yes, yes, you're paying $8,400 a month, it's just split between HICID and the city. So you're paying $4,200 per deputy is what you're actually paying.
oh, true, but, yeah, this paragraph says the city and HICID each agree to pay, so that's the obligation.
Well,
of
you
the
could,
city
you
and
could
HICID.
change that to say $4,200 per deputy,
Okay, I just suggest.
and then you would be covered.
Those words in that paragraph be changed to be explicit.
Well, that would be explicit if you said per deputy.
And if there was only one, then there'd only be a
$4,200 split. So if you change that
Well, if you say,
Uh,
like, the city and
HICID, the city and HICID will pay the county $42,000 per deputy.
No,
Don't put that.
Not 42, each.
Where the hell does it say that anyway? Because I'm reading about the cars. Where's that other issue? Where's the $4,200 per deputy?
paragraph 13.
Paragraph 13, I was reading, yeah, so. So you could say, agree to pay the county $4,200 monthly per deputy.
But it says each agreed to pay,
The city and HICID each,
but each makes a difference.
okay, we'll just take out the each and say agree to pay.
No, you can't take
You
out
have-
the
you
each,
have to be
you'd
explicit
have
on
to change
how
it to
much-
2,100 each.
2,100 each.
You can't take out the each part.
Well, you can't say 20, you got to say $2,100
Each.
per deputy.
Per deputy would work.
Because there will be times when you only have 1, I guarantee.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah.
And take out the total. So you would read, the city and HICID each agree to pay the county $2,100 per deputy per month for the duration of this agreement.
That sounds good.
Okay.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second?
I've already seconded it before.
Second, Pat seconded it, Jerry made the motion. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Opposed? We're adjourned.
I want to give you this,
We've already collected our name tag too.
the lady,
That was